5 members of the Township Committee. Mayor, do you want to read the statement into the record, please?
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. Yes, adequate notice of the June 11th, 2020 meeting has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting written notice and agenda of the meeting on the bulletin board in this municipal building, 1000 Route 10, Township of Hanover, and by hand delivering, mailing, or faxing such notice and agenda to the following newspapers: Morris County's Daily Record, the Star Ledger, Hanover Eagle, and by filing same with the Township Clerk.
Notice of the meeting was also posted on the Township's bulletin board, and legal ads on this afternoon's meeting was posted in the Star Ledger on Monday, June the 8th, in the Daily Record on Friday, June the 5th. On roll call, Mr. Gallagher?
Here.
Mr. Ferramaska?
Here.
Mr. Mahalko?
Here.
Cahill?
Here.
And Mr. Francioli?
Here.
5 members in attendance, and at this time, we now do the Pledge of Allegiance and the Township Committee prayer. So I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
States of America,
and to the republic which stands one nation under God, all indivisible,
liberty and justice for all. And Mr. Ferramaska, would you kindly lead us in the prayer?
Almighty God, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding, so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all of the people of Hanover Township. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Chairman, members of the Township Committee, if you would please give me an opportunity, I'd like to just lay down the ground rules for this afternoon's meeting, if that's okay. In order to conduct this meeting in orderly fashion, we certainly want to hear from all members of the public that might be participating. When we do the public hearing and consideration of adoption of the ordinances, I will ask for members of the public to identify themselves by giving their full name and address into the record. Every member of the public will be given 4 minutes in which to address any of the 3 township ordinances that are up for adoption. At the end, be disrupted.
Francioli, so moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Francioli. Do we have a second?
Mahalko, second.
Mr. Mahalko seconds on the approval of the regular minutes. On roll call, Mr. Gallagher. Mr. Gallagher, on roll call for the approval of the minutes.
Aye.
Mr. Ferramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So approved. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we now turn our attention to the next item. We have 3 ordinances docketed for public hearing at this time. The ordinances all appeared in full in the Daily Record in accordance with law. With regard to ordinance number 17-2020, dealing with the proposed Pine Plaza development, that ordinance was sent to the Morris County Planning Board, all the contiguous municipalities, and also in accordance with the municipal land use law, referred to the Hanover Township Planning Board for referral and recommendation. I just want to point out, members of the public that are listening, because the planning board has not met to review that ordinance, ordinance number 17-2020 cannot be considered for adoption this evening. The Township Committee can certainly open the public hearing and address any comments, but at the conclusion of the public hearing, where the public hearing would be continued to the next regular meeting on July the 9th, the ordinance would then be considered for adoption. I'd also note for the record that Mr. Paul Phillips, the Township's professional planner, who worked on the preparation of the redevelopment plan, is also present on the phone, and he can give an update on what that plan calls for before we hear from any member of the public, so that members of the public will have a better understanding what that plan entails. We'll also indicate that some 170 letters were mailed to all the property owners within several hundred feet of the proposed redevelopment plan to give members of the public the opportunity to hear about and comment on the plan. So, with all that being said, may we now have a motion to convene the public hearing. Address for the record. Are there any individuals wishing to be heard concerning ordinance number 17, 18, or 19?
Yes, Terry Baird.
And your address, Ms. Baird?
180 Parsippany Road in the Whippany section of Hanover.
Thank you, Terry. And which ordinance?
17.
Go right ahead.
I have a question. Disappointing because there was no renditions of the outline, like an outline map of what the potential was supposed to be. And my first question would be is if the rendition that is on the JMF Properties website, is that pretty accurate according to the redevelopment plan? And that would be for Mr. Phillips. maybe he would know.
So I'm happy to try and answer that question. So I'm not so sure what is on the JMF website, but what I can tell you standards for the redeveloper and the planning board to work when it comes time to
be accurate at this time. Otherwise, they wouldn't be promoting it. So
I'm not so sure. Can I just interrupt?
Welcome, and thank you for choosing. Please enter your PIN followed by the pound or hash. Thank you. There are 23 participants in the conference. Please announce yourself.
Feet of the land. Will the grading where the parking lot area is right now, which is where the townhouses will be sitting, is that going to be graded higher? You know, like how much higher can they go from that, which would make everything look, you know, tremendously higher from the people in the houses on Legion Place.
Mr. Phillips, would you address that, please?
Sure. So, a couple of things. We were working off a concept plan for the residential, which was part of the settlement agreement between JMF and the township in connection with the township's affordable housing plan. And that settlement agreement basically set forth where the townhouses would generally be going relative to the rear lot lines on Legion Place. So we had to work with that. The other thing we had to work with, and we were very cognizant of the issues of height and the proximity of residential. And one of the other things we had to work with was it was agreed that we would permit 3-story townhouses. And you have a little bit of a trade-off between the aesthetics of the 3-story townhouse and the absolute height. All else being equal, you want to have some degree of roof pitch, particularly with 3 stories, to make those townhouses as attractive as possible. We felt that the 45 feet was a reasonable standard to achieve that balance. I know some townhouse developers would prefer to go even higher, closer to 50, in some cases 52 feet, with a 3-story townhouse. We were cognizant of the relationship to the houses on Legion Place. As you pointed out, there is a buffer requirement, and we have basically indicated that the planning board will have the ultimate discretion as to the adequacy of that buffer at site plan review. We wanted that to be a major topic for the planning board so that they would have discretion and the developer couldn't simply come in and say, I've satisfied the buffer requirement, because we, again, are cognizant that there are residences that directly or will directly abut the townhouses. With regard to the issue of grade, all I can tell you is that obviously the site's not been fully engineered yet, so I can't speak to the specifics of grade. What I can say is that I'm certainly cognizant of the height differential between the houses and the properties on Legion Place and the area, the portion of the redevelopment area that's within the residential component. And obviously the Legion Place properties are at a higher elevation, which I think, all else being equal, tends to mitigate the impacts of height, together with the landscaping ultimately that will be the purview, under the purview of the planning board. The only other thing which we were cognizant was a mitigating factor here was that the houses on Legion Place are relatively deep lots with a deep rear yard that provides additional distance between the rear property line and the house as part of that overall transition to the townhouses on the residential component. So without getting into the detailed engineering, which I can't really address, those were the considerations that we kept in mind when we came up with the plan standards.
Okay. And as far as the Mount Pleasant turnaround, how close would that be? The actual road of the turnaround be close to the property line of the last house on Mount Pleasant?
Well, that remains to be determined. As you know, if you read the plan, the intent is to vacate the cul-de-sac portion of Mount Pleasant Avenue and basically convey lands to the redeveloper, and the redeveloper would be responsible for basically an alternative access to the satisfaction, again, of the township and the planning board. But we don't know exactly as to basically where that is or potentially how much closer that might be to the nearest house, I guess, on Mount Pleasant, as you say, until we basically get a detailed site plan that shows that alignment and location.
Because I thought it would be in the zoning part of that, just like how close the senior housing, which is 55 foot high, would be close to the last house's property line. I couldn't find that either.
There are no particular, well, that's because there are no particular standards with regard to the proximity and realignment of the end of Mount Pleasant. And again, that would be something left to the discretion of the planning board as to what was adequate at the time of site plan approval.
Okay, all right. And then in the other area I have it's a hotel. I see that it's 5 stories, 75 foot, and it has a 5,000 square foot restaurant, but I could not find the square footage footprint of the hotel.
And you're very perceptive, because there is no square footage limit. What there is on the limit of the hotel essentially is the 150 rooms and the fact that it may also have the 5,000 square foot restaurant. There are some general industry standards as to the amount of gross floor area of a hotel based on a per room basis, but I think you have a sense, given the height restriction that you just cited, as well as 150 rooms, in terms of what the mass of that hotel might be. Because it only has the addition of the restaurant, I think you can get a sense as to the sort of the mass of the hotel relative to a different type hotel that might, for example, have a lot of meeting space or banquet space and so forth. So we have those safeguards to keep it at a reasonable level, which I think is what your concern is.
Yeah, and also, I know towards the end it had like all the particulars about the town not getting land for the development and stuff like that. But I don't see anything about what gets built first. Does the housing get built first? The senior part get built first, or the retail? Is it in there and I missed it?
Well, typically, and someone else on the Hanover side, Fred or someone may want to jump in, but typically the redevelopment plan does not get into basically the levels in terms of the details of the construction phasing. That could be potentially part of and subject to a redevelopment agreement that's generally entered into between the redeveloper and the township, but I'll defer to Fred or someone else on that.
Okay, and that would also
the phasing, if I might, Terry. Planning board discusses phasing with respect to its impact on the public. So it's going to take a look at as the development progresses, what portions we can do to lessen that impact and insulate the general public from any disturbance whatsoever.
right. And then I guess my final question would be about the demolition and on-site grinding. If there will be on-site grinding or demolition, or is that like a planning board question for when it goes for site plan?
John, do you want to take
Yes, Terry, regarding on-site grinding, we have a clear policy on that. It's on the township website, and the time for that would be in terms of the application process. So that would typically be part of the planning board cycle.
Okay. All right. And any advice on how you're going to discourage the cut-through between the retail portion and the Mount Pleasant Avenue traffic? It says it'll discourage it, but I don't understand how it could be discouraged.
Yeah, Terry, without... I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is John again. We would work very carefully during the planning process with our planner, Mr. Branchow, to mitigate as much as possible impact of traffic circulation onto residential areas outside of that community.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Terry. Is there anyone else wishing to address Township Committee?
Joe, this is Fred. I just want to mention there is a phase in on this agreement, and that is that the commercial property and development aspect cannot be built until 50% of the residential, which includes the affordable units, the senior units, are built. Until there's a CO on those, the commercial cannot obtain their building permits. Thanks.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Are there any other members of the public wishing to address the governing body concerning ordinance number 17, 18, or 19? And if so, please give us your full name and address and the ordinance you would like to comment on.
Yes, this is Kurt Hirschberg, 68 Mount Pleasant Avenue in Whippany, and I'm commenting on ordinance number 17. I would just like to reiterate Terry's comments. I'm an architect, so one of my primary concerns is the height of those structures and how they relate contextually to the scale of the structures on Mount Pleasant. And the other concern I had, experiencing what the traffic is like here on Mount Pleasant, I can't stress enough the importance to make sure that a a proper traffic study is done so we'll all understand the impacts of what this means to us here. Looking at that plan that they have, granted it is preliminary, but my concern in seeing that is it's going to be a significant additional amount of vehicular traffic here on Mount Pleasant. And certain times of the day, the traffic here is at the level of being dangerous. And I'm sure that 3/4 of the people who live on Mount Pleasant would agree with me to that.
Thank you, sir. John, Committeeman Firmuska, did you want to make any comments on that or not?
No, I think that is a real concern, which we all share, as to traffic impact onto Mount Pleasant. And again, the planning board will have in its purview the opportunity to request information about a traffic study, and with the intent to try to manage the traffic, because we are all very much aware of it, as it being a cut through now, and what will be in the future hopefully will be less.
The only other comment I wanted to add, watching going from the Food Town Shopping Center to Pine Plaza and seeing that originally this was expanded without doing a real research for need, which was an ultimate part of its failure. I'm seeing things like the convenience store and the gas station, and one big red flag that comes up to me, is there really a need for that, considering we've got quick checks that are within fractions of a mile from that location already?
Any comment from members of the governing body? Or okay, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Hirschberg, for your comments. Any other members? Yes, sir. Mayor Fred.
Joe, my only comment to Mr. Hirschberg was that, and a very reasonable question that he asked regarding to the uses on that site. And I would have to say that some of this is still in progress. Fred, you could probably respond to it from the standpoint of the legal aspect of this thing, since negotiations continue on that particular site.
Yeah, so that the convenience store is something that the township committee would like, if it had its choice, not to be part of this. And there still could be that hope that it is not when the day is over, and it will really depend on what transpires going forward. But as part of the affordable units and the senior housing development that's on the site, that was at some point discussed, but it is not engraved yet in stone. So I would say this is not a development application, and it doesn't mean it's approved. And that may be something that we're going to continue to discuss and consider, if possible, whereby that may be ultimately removed.
Thank you. Any other comments from members of the public on any of the three ordinances? Please identify yourself and the ordinance you wish to comment on.
This is Douglas Seaman. Wanted to comment on Ordinance 17.
Okay, and your address, sir?
48 Washington Ave.
Thank you.
Just a couple quick questions. Again, just using the JMF website as the potential proposed development. Just looking at the square footage counts on there, it looks like there's about 114,000. Just want to make sure, reading through the redevelopment plan, that my numbers are correct, that we're allowing 130,000 square feet of commercial space, excluding the hotel?
That's correct.
Okay. And then the current Pine Plaza Shopping Center is roughly 111,000 square feet. So the proposed commercial square footage on the lot is going to be increasing by about 19,000 square feet, excluding the hotel?
I'm going to take your word for Pine Plaza's square footage. I mean, I studied that when I did the area need, but I don't have that number in front of me. But if you're saying it's 111, I have no reason to doubt that.
Yeah, I took it from the redevelopment plan that's on the website. Now, just looking at for the hotel, how many stories is being approved?
Well, it's not a question of what's being approved. It's a question of what the number of stories for the hotel would be permitted. And in this case, we are allowing, specifically, we're sort of singling out hotels and be able to go to 5 stories. Whereas, as you can imagine, all the other commercial uses are much lower in terms of height.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I have poor choice of words on my part saying approved. So, yeah.
No, not at all.
So just checking on their website there, so it looks like it's 18,000 square foot per floor. So if it's 5 stories, that's 90,000 square feet. So if you had the 114 a commercial space plus the other 90 from the hotel, you're up to 204,000 of total commercial space when the current lot only has 111. That's roughly 100,000, rounding up 100,000 more square foot of commercial space going on to that lot plus residential development. Just leading to my point about traffic studies and what that lot and area would be able to handle without significant amounts of additional traffic in that area, knowing that somewhere in the near future we have the River Park development coming online as well.
Right. So, yes, you are correct. Just 2 points. Obviously, as you're aware, that at the time of any site plan approval, the applicant, redeveloper, will have to submit a detailed traffic study, which will address the issue of traffic impacts on the site and the adjacent roadway network. But the only other point that I want to make, which is important, while the redevelopment plan does allow for the maximums of the 130,000 of retail and the hotel, the redeveloper is also bound by all the other development standards that go hand in hand in the redevelopment plan. So what I'm getting at is the developer's going to have to show compliance with things such as coverage, setbacks, buffers, and probably most importantly, parking. And that's a theoretical number, and the developer has to show that they can meet all the other standards, right, in order to attain that upper threshold that you cite. So that may or may not be achievable in the long run, and the only way to determine that is when the developer actually does a concept plan, makes a submission to the planning board, and to see whether or not they can basically achieve either at that level or near that level without seeking any kind of variance relief. So the long and short of it is that whole issue remains to be played out, if you will.
Okay. But last question. I know over the last year with these different meetings, a lot of talk of traffic studies. At the end of the day, what impact does a traffic study really have on a proposed development? So let's say a study is done, and it says, it would lead to, I've never read a traffic study, so I'm totally clueless on this. Let's say the traffic study said that it would lead to excessive traffic. Okay, it's going to lead to excessive traffic, any substantial increase of traffic on Mount Pleasant. When it comes to our affordable housing settlement and the proposed redevelopment plan, how does that traffic study come into play on those items? Or is it, okay, it's noted, thank you, you can comment on it, there's going to be increase in traffic, we all know it. At the end of the day, how does that come into play?
So I'm not a traffic engineer, but I'll certainly take the first shot at it. So the applicant is going to have to perform at the time of the site plan application a detailed analysis of traffic, which will cover the existing conditions on the adjacent roadways, what the proposed development will generate in terms of new trips, and then we'll compare the conditions on the roadway, the existing conditions with the proposed conditions, to determine whether or not that roadway is still adequate to handle the additional traffic. The traffic study will also cover things such as site access, whether it's appropriate and reasonable to service the development. And then lastly, if there are any off-site improvements that are required in order to mitigate any traffic impacts, that would be part of the applicant's proposal as well. But you're getting that from the lay planning person as opposed to a traffic engineer, but I've heard so much traffic testimony over the course of my career, I think I pretty much have that right. But other members of the township on this call can correct me if I'm wrong.
We have in our township engineer, Doug, Jerry Becerra, whose background is strength is traffic as well. And what you just heard from our planner on this thing is true. Whatever the study indicates to us may require additional improvements, and they can take various forms. The planning board will listen to that. And these various forms can be anything from signalization to manners in which we can control speed down the streets, areas, etc. So all of this has to be looked at once we get an idea of the traffic impact.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. I know it's one of the big concerns that you keep hearing on the, from residents on the development is the traffic. And at the end of the day, you can have a traffic study done, but what impact, will it really, have on the outcome? But I appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Any other members of the public wishing to address the Township Committee on Ordinance 17, 18, or 19? Please identify yourself.
Motion to close?
Hearing none, we have a motion by Mr. Francioli to close the public hearing on the three ordinances. Have a second?
Yes, John Firmaska, second.
On Committeeman Firmaska on roll call. Mr. Gallagher?
Aye.
Firmaska?
Aye.
Mahalko?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
And Mr. Francioli?
Aye.
All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a vote on each ordinance separately. So the first ordinance number 17-2020, as I announced earlier, because of the technicality that the planning board still has to comment in accordance with the municipal land use law on the ordinance and the redevelopment plan, the motion would be to continue the public hearing to the meeting of July 9th and to carry that ordinance to that meeting. I have a motion to continue the public hearing to July 9th.
So I will move this once the planning board has the opportunity to review this.
Motion by Mr. Firmaska to continue and move the ordinance to July 9th. Do we have a second? We have a second by Mr. Gallagher on roll call. Mr. Gallagher?
Aye.
Firmaska?
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Yes.
And Mr. Francioli?
Aye.
Mr. Francioli, I thought you said you were going to recuse on this ordinance.
I'm just voting on the request to continue this or move this up.
Okay. Is that okay, Fred?
Yeah.
Yes, under the circumstances. Actually, it probably would be better, Mayor, if you recused consistently on it. Just for the record.
So be it. So be it.
Okay, so Mayor Francioli is recusing on carrying the ordinance to July 9th. So we have 4 ayes in favor. Ordinance number 18-2020, regulations governing the performance of tree work by commercial tree services. May we have a motion on adoption?
So moved. Ace Gallagher.
Motion by Committeeman Gallagher. Do we have a second?
Second by Mahalko.
Second.
Second by Mr. Mahalko. On roll call for adoption of ordinance number 18-2020. Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Firmaska.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli?
Aye.
Okay, now, consideration of adoption on Ordinance 19-2020, the 2020 salary ordinance. Do we have a motion for adoption?
So moved.
By Mr. Francioli. Do we have a second?
Second, Mike Mahalko.
Second by Mr. Mahalko. And roll call for adoption of ordinance number 19. Mr. Gallagher?
Aye.
Mr. Ferramasca?
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko?
Yes.
Mr. Cahill?
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So adopted, ladies and gentlemen. As we proceed to item number 6 on the agenda, we do not have any ordinances for introduction this evening. We now move to the resolutions as a consent agenda, and this is docketed as resolutions A through U. And members of the Township Committee, please look those over. If you have any questions or comments, please certainly make those comments known at this time.
Mr. Giorgio, John Ferramasca.
Yes, Committeeman Ferramasca.
I want to comment on G, temporarily modifying certain outdoor dining requirements.
Yes, sir.
Hanover
Go right ahead.
Hanover cares greatly for members of our township, both our residents, both our businesses, especially those who are suffering during this very difficult time. This resolution that the Township Committee is working on tonight will effectively temporarily allow outdoor dining to exist with current restaurants. That's important. In addition, what's important is the professionals with Hanover Township have worked to develop a checklist to help facilitate the implementation of this resolution. And for that, I want to acknowledge them on their fine work. So I will move the consent agenda forward if there's no other discussions.
Are there any other comments from members of the governing body? We have a motion by Mr. Ferramasca to move the consent agenda.
I would
Committeeman Gallagher, you have a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what John said. I'd like to thank everybody for putting their fingerprints on this and looking out and working very, very hard for our local business. And now we can also go and enjoy our local businesses and work together to promote and let people know that our businesses are open and ready for business. And a benefit to this also is we did, as a committee, relax our sign ordinance a little bit to let people know throughout the entire pandemic that they are open for pickup and delivery. So it was made clear that once again we came together as a family to do everything we could for our local business and our families.
The Committeeman, any other comments?
This is Francioli. Just a technical question. I guess this is more for Fred, because Fred, I know you were the architect to a lot of the language on this for other towns as well. And a question came up from myself and some of the committeemen. This is initiated by the governor's executive order to allow outdoor dining, curbside dining, etc.
Yeah.
In our resolution, are we requiring a permit or before the spec committee, or is this allowed already by the executive order?
No, we're asking everyone to come in on an expedited manner just before the spec committee, and that means there's no formal application or hearing before the planning board. It's just an expedited way that we're creating this as a permit so that you don't have to go and obtain formal notice, planning, or zoning approval. It's on a temporary basis, but it's expedited that way, Mayor.
But the expediting matter will take the form of a permit?
Yeah, just filling out the information and providing it to Sean Donlin and the other members of that small committee informally, and come forward. You don't need architect plans and things like that. It's for that temporary dining for this year, for the balance of the season of this year.
just want to be sure, and I think all my colleagues feel the same, that we want to move expeditiously on this, and that we don't delay any restaurant from availing themselves of this. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other comments from members of the governing body? Bringing up, we have a motion by Mr. Faramasca on approval of the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
Second, Cahill.
We have a second by Mr. Cahill. On roll call, all of the resolutions as a consent agenda. Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Faramasca.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, on the last page of your agenda, item A, payment of bills, $1,050,866.20. May we have a motion on the payment of our bills?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Francioli, and the second was, who was the second, please?
Mr. Gallagher.
Mr. Gallagher. Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. On roll call, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Faramasca.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So approved. One raffle application to report. Raffle application 3290. Villa Walsh Academy for an off-premise raffle. May we have a motion for approval?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Gallagher. Second.
Mahalko.
Mahalko, all in favor?
Aye.
Application is approved. Now, Mr. Chairman, members of the Township Committee, item number 10, open to the public for any member of the public to address the governing body. And once again, your name and address for the record if you have any comments.
I have a comment. Can you hear me?
Yes, your name and address?
Okay. Yes, my name is Fern Walkin, Wolkin, 16 Gristmill Road in Cedar Knolls. And I just wanted to address a couple of items on the agenda. I was just wondering if the police captain happened to be on this call or not.
With the chief of
Just because there were items on the agenda relating to the police captain, so I was just wondering if he's on the call.
Chief, are you on the call?
Yes, Chief Roddy is on the call.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So I wanted to address items I, J, K, L, and M on the agenda regarding police radio communications, which, and this is not a complaint, this is just, I'm just reading it. It's over $600,000 worth of communications equipment and so on. I'd like to ask, and he can answer whether we already do this or not, if that includes body cameras and police vehicle cameras, or do we already have those?
It does not include either of those items. We currently do have the in-car cameras. We do not currently have body cameras. However, we are in the process of looking into those.
Okay, is there a chance that we could get maybe state grant money or federal money for that?
I would anticipate with the current climate, hopefully that's a yes. It's very, very costly to implement those programs. As of right now, that funding is not available, but I'm hoping that perhaps it would be relaxed in the near future.
Okay. Okay. I'm glad to hear that. I think it's really important, as you say, Captain, in this climate, that our police officers have those body cameras. And the reason being, I think, is that we know that as a community, we live in a very safe community, but our community is very commercialized, and we have, a lot of stores and offices and so on. And, people come from all over to come to this town, and I know that our police officers deal with not just residents, but everyone. So I just want to make sure that for our town and for our police officers, and for everybody else concerned, that we have those cameras, because we don't want to ever become that town. And the second question to you, Captain, if you don't mind answering, is are our officers trained in implicit bias? Do we have a program for that?
Yes, we do, and we actually go above and beyond there's state mandates from the Attorney General's office as far as that type of training every year.
Yes.
And as an accredited police agency, we actually go above and beyond that training. So there's several modules a year that all sworn police officers have to undergo within this department. It deals with it runs the gamut of society today, and we're pretty much growing with the changes. So yes, we're
okay. Fantastic. Okay. So then I'm just going to end with commending you for that and for our police department, and hoping that you will for sure follow through on any kind of grant money or anything, because I think regardless of the grant money, it's something that we need to spend money on, and that's that the police officers have their body cameras. So I'll just end with that there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wolf. Any other members of the public?
Ferd, I'm sure
Yes.
you were addressing Chief Gallagher. Chief Roddy, not Captain Gallagher, but that's fine.
I got the motor in.
Thank you for clarifying, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ferd.
You're welcome.
Go back to you.
Thank you, Ron. Any other members of the public wishing to address the Township Committee?
Yes. Terry Baird, 180 Parsippany Road, Whippany section of Hanover.
Right ahead, Terry.
Okay. On Tuesday, the cul-de-sac went up for public bid and was bid on, and at that time, you said that there would be like a resolution to accept the bid, that the committee has to pass a resolution to accept the bid. And I actually thought it was going to be put on tonight's agenda, and I was wondering what an update on that.
I have to defer to Fred on that, but I did not receive any resolution.
We're just putting it together. We want to have a signed contract before we, ask the committee to accept the bid. So we put together a signed contract, and we'll be sending it over to the successful bidder, and they need to return that so that we can present it to the governing body. So I would expect at the next meeting that resolution will be before the governing body. Otherwise, the terms of the award of the bid will be violated. But I would expect that for the next meeting, Terry.
Okay. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public wishing to address the governing body?
Doug Eamon, 48 Washington Ave.
Go right ahead, Doug.
With respect to the pool opening, now that our governor has released his guidelines, which I want to note references a lot of should, not must. Want to know where we stand when it comes to opening the pool as noted at the prior meeting on July 1st. And I know the governor had mentioned June 22nd as a date when pools could open, if possibly the Recreation Department would consider maybe doing a soft opening on June 22nd to maybe work through some of the guidelines they're trying to implement, rather than going full bore on July 1st. And then also with respect to opening, at this point in time, is there enough interest to support opening the pool? And if there is not enough interest, would there be consideration given to increasing the amount of dues to cover the cost of opening the pool for the members that do want to open it? Thank you.
Hi, Doug. It's Mike Mahalko. You always beat me to the punch. That's always part of my reports. So you beat me to it. But let me...
The problem is I can't ask questions after your report.
True. Let me... can everybody hear me all right?
Yes, go right ahead, Mike.
Okay, so let me give my portion of the report right now.
So yes, we are looking. That is a good suggestion, a soft opening. I'll bring it back to Denise and see where it's at. There are some maintenance issues that we have been working on because of the situation this spring. Maintenance kind of got pushed back a little bit, but we are on target to open for July 1st. Our new slide is in and will be completed by then. Unfortunately, the rock wall will not be ready because the plastic in it has been used for the COVID, making shields. The partitions. They started using all the plastic to make the partitions when you go into the store. So unfortunately, the rock will not be made. Will not be ready in time, but hopefully we'll get it by the end of the summer. We'll see how that goes. So no, we have no intention of actually raising rates. We will be actually lowering our rates. We're going to prorate it a little bit, so the rates will actually come down. As of right now, we do have enough to open the pool, although a lot of people still haven't given a yay or a nay. We haven't gotten our blue cards back. So if you're listening, please send your blue card in if you haven't yet, and then you will be billed later. Right now, if we stick with the July 1st opening, for the standard family membership would be about $300, which is about $65 less than normal. So there is actually a little bit of a savings, Doug. And that's going to go kind of across the board. We kind of prorated everything to make it equitable. So yes, we are on track. We're going to open roughly at a 50% capacity, but that still puts us around 500 people. So we should still have plenty of space. We'll be able to spread the tables out. We'll be able to spread our, everything will be spread out, and according to the rules, and that's what they're working on right now. Denise Brennan, the superintendent, has been working with Eddie Cashin, the pool supervisor, and we're going to have some rules out very, very, very soon, probably within the next couple of days, and really pushing that. So yes, we are looking at it. I do like your idea of a soft opening, though. That's a good suggestion.
All right, appreciate it. Hey, if you need some help with the maintenance on the weekend or something, you let me know. I'll get over there. Anxious to get in the pool.
Sounds good. Me too.
Any other member of the public wishing to address the Township Committee? Hearing none, they would have a motion to close the open portion of the meeting. A motion by Mr. Francioli. We have a second.
Second. Ace Gallagher, second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that portion is closed. The next item of business is report of the Township Attorney concerning the status of the Township's affordable housing obligation.
Thank you, Mr. Giorgio. This is Fred Semro. What we are working on right now is there was an amendment to our affordable housing settlement, and it called for changes on the River Park site, and our planners are working on those amendments. If you recall, that is in consideration of eliminating the overlay zones on Parsippany Road. So the court has given us time to go back and make some changes to the River Park site and settlement, and that'll be a future date for a redevelopment plan amendment, and the elimination of those zones will stay in place. So that's where we are right now. We would expect that those legal actions and zoning changes will take place in the month of July and August of 2020. Thank you, Mr. Giorgio.
Thank you, Mr. Semrau. And Mr. Mayor, members of the Township Committee, we now move to other business of the Township.
Joe, thank you. All right, at this time, gentlemen, we usually give a comment on our various areas. And once again, I'll start with Committeeman Gallagher. Ace, how you doing?
Thanks, Ron. Thank you very much. Hey, I just want to add a little bit to our ordinance involving tree work. I've received a few phone calls about it. I've received a few recommendations about it. But I just want to be clear on the purpose of it. And a lot of people don't know, but since April 12th, 2018, you have to have a license to operate as a tree business in New Jersey. You have to have a business license, and you have to have a personal license. And that's a state mandate, and what we're doing in Hanover Township now is having people include their license number on taking out a permit to remove a tree, a professional company. And all that does is goes back into the wheelhouse that I've always practiced is the safety of the operating person is important, but the safety of the public is even more important. So what we did in Hanover Township, had a response to a couple different calls and a couple observations, is we worked very hard with Chief Roddy and Joe Giorgio to put together a practice, just like we've dealt with the Lexus dealer over there on Route 10, is if you're going to operate and you're going to use a lane or request a lane closure, you have to go through a certain process in order to do so. And even if you do pull over on the main road and you do block a lane, you also have to be compliant with the state regulations, such as cones, such as triangles, such as flashes on your truck. So we are by no means making it more difficult for tree men. We're actually encouraging companies to work within the parameters of the law, and we're working very hard to make sure that our families are much safer. The last example I'll give you is see the lane closure. Just because you decide to close a lane, there was a report of a woman that crashed into a pile of mulch. A landscaper dropped a pile of mulch in the road, Whitby Road, and a woman hit it. Now, number one, you shouldn't really do that in practice. But number two, if you're going to use a lane, you should notify the police, and now you have to. And you should also use cones and any kind of traffic rerouting devices you possibly can, including flashes. So this is by no means making it tougher on tree men. This is making it better for our residents and also encouraging all tree companies to be compliant with the law. So I just wanted to take a minute and clear that up because people have asked me about it. The last thing I want to say is I want to thank Committeeman Malco. I want to thank Denise and Brian Ferran, and including Joe. You can't do anything without Joe Giorgio around here, but we did have a meeting. We had been working very hard about our fields, our parks, our activities for our children, and especially the pool. And long before Governor Murphy put out another piece of an executive order with pools, we had a pretty good plan in place with the DPW, with the rec. And Mike, you've been great with all of this, trying to push and push and push. So I just want to say that we're going to do everything we could for our families. We know our kids have been cooped up since March 20th. We know there's been no organized sports. So anything we can do, we're going to work together as a team. And it's been shown here, again, that we all will step up and do everything we could for our residents. So, Mike, I want to thank you because I've had countless calls with you on what we could do, why we should do it, and how fast we can do it. So that's my report, guys. So sorry for going on about the trees, but I want to be clear on why we did it. That's it.
Thank you, Ace. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. And moving along, Brian, you got anything for us? Brian Cahill, committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I have just two things I wanted to talk about. Today, I had a great discussion with one of our Whippany fire officials around the new Whippany firehouse. Many of you probably noticed that there's now a fence around it, and that there's some activity going on. So I just got a great update from him. They've got a contractor in place, hence the fence. They've also got a clerk of the works in place, which was something that was important to the community, just somebody to oversee and make sure that everything goes smoothly. So all of that is in place. They are actually working on the interior. Just right now, the contractor is coordinating with all the subcontractors and also township officials, our building inspectors, so on and so forth. But basically coordinating and trying to make sure that everything that needs to get done is documented and done in the proper order. So they're working on simple things right now, like running conduit that hadn't been completed yet, checking the AC, HV, those sorts of things. But look forward to more work getting done at a fast pace. The contractor does estimate that he expects it to be done in about 9 months. According to the contract, they have a year. So he's treating this rather aggressively, and to date, the fire official that I spoke with is very, very happy with the work that's being done and the way it's being done about. So good news there. Hopefully that continues when we get that place finished up. Lastly, and the second thing I want to mention is on Saturday, May 16th, a few weeks ago, you may have heard a lot of sirens and whistles going on during the course of the morning. What that was our first responders, police and fire, were good enough to accompany Whippany Park teachers throughout the community to deliver congratulatory graduation signs to 160 homes throughout the town. So we basically broke up into 4 groups, all using proper social distancing. Police and fire personnel did not leave their cars. A single teacher would get out in front of each household and plant the sign and share some kind words, of course, with the students. And that went on throughout the course of the morning on Saturday the 16th. All I can say is, A, it was very, very well received. If you follow social media, there were people without children that were just absolutely thrilled with the community spirit and the fact that our first responders were so willing to get involved and do what they could, for our graduating seniors. They've got, it is a very unusual time, obviously, due to the COVID-19 pandemic. They are not enjoying what would normally be a traditional graduation. So, we as parents, full disclosure, I'm a parent of a high school senior, and so is Committeeman Mahalco. We want to try to make this as normal as possible, and where we can, perhaps even do some special things. And what happened on May 16th was certainly a very special thing. So, thank you to the police and fire department, and thank you. That's my report.
Oh, very well. Thank you very much, Mike. Very good. And I think everyone in town much appreciates what has the effort that both you yourself and Mike have put forth. I know you have 2 seniors in the system, but the extra efforts that you put forth as parents as well and committeemen as well to make it happen for that extraordinary situation that we're in. And we made the very, very best of it. So, attaboy, you guys, and Chief, for all you're doing with the parades for our youngsters here has been absolutely fantastic. So, thank you both. Very good, Michael. How you doing? You any more to that report, or did you?
Yeah, I got to add a little bit more, and I want to again also thank our police and fire. They've also been doing drive-bys for birthday parties. Again, talk about going above and beyond. We want to thank them all for really. And, I would send a text or an email to Derek Shear. The corporate would be involved. They would pick up on it, and it was never a hem and a haw. It was always, yes, when can I go over and drive by and see a young person have a birthday, just to make it a little bit special for them. So really thank all of those, thank all of our both fire departments for doing that. They do a terrific job. Really, really great group. Just a couple more things I want to add. Obviously, we talked about the pool. I can't stress enough. If you haven't signed up, please sign up. Send your blue card in. You will get billed later. But again, it's going to be around $300 for a standard family, an in-town family. I also want to mention we do have, although a lot of things have been canceled, we do have a few things going on. We have a movie night. And unfortunately, if you haven't signed up already, it's already sold out. We do have a movie night. It's going to be at the V Meadow Pool parking lot on Saturday, June 27th. Sonic the Hedgehog is going to be the movie, but it's sold out. Somebody even said it sold out in 4 minutes. I don't know if that was true, but it sold out right away. We are doing that in partnership with the FMBA. So this first one is free. It's sponsored by the town. But we will have more, again, sponsored by the FMBA, and they're going to ask for a donation in the future. But as well as it was received, I'm sure it's going to go quick, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of people. We have 75 vehicles allowed, and I think we might even be able to stretch that next time, but we'll see. Again, so keep your eyes and ears out for the next drive-in movies that we're going to have, sponsored by our FMBA. We also have Hanover Township Rec to Go. And what that is we're in the planning stages for a once-a-week activity for our students, grades 1 through 5. Obviously, we can't have the camps, but we have some, let's call them COVID-friendly events coming up. And it's going to be for late July and into August. So just to give our kids something to do. They've been pent up for a long time, and hopefully to get them out and
Superintendent Denise Brennan has done a fantastic job. Thank you, Ace. Denise and all of her crew have been working tirelessly with every twist and turn that this is thrown at us. They keep continually coming up with new scenarios on how to make things happen. So I really got to thank them. And Brian Ferran has been instrumental also, being as agreeable and really putting forth the effort. So thank you, DPW, and everyone. And, of course, Joe and Krista for all of their efforts, too. One more final thing. We are going to have a Wildcat Sports Clinic. More information to follow. Although it will not, in the past it had been done at Whitney Park High School, but since the high school is closed, we're going to have them at our field. But just kind of keep your ears out if you have some older kids that would be interested in that. That concludes my report.
Oh, Mike, thanks. Can you comment on just two other things for everybody? Fireworks on Hanover Township Day. What are you guys doing?
Oh, yes. We are going to move the fireworks. They are canceled usually we'd have them on July 2nd. We canceled that, and we moved it to Hanover Township Day. So we're still in the early stages of planning that, but we are going to have Hanover Township Day, and then after Hanover Township Day, we're going to have our fireworks. And we'll probably just, it'll be at the Hanover Municipal Campus, and we'll block off the road and kind of just extend what we had done in the past, but to include it, maybe an extra couple hours and include kind of a Hanover Township Day over there. But yeah, as we get more information, we should have a lot more information by our next meeting to really fill everyone in.
Terrific. All right, thank you very much. Very good. Good. Deputy Mayor Faramasca, how you doing? John?
Good. Outdoor dining, a step in the right direction. It begins June 15th. You heard the Township Committee approve the resolution this evening to allow the temporary use of outdoor dining. Importantly, in addition to allowing it, Hanover is facilitating an approval process to expedite it so that if we have a restaurant that has the capability to support outdoor dining, there is a process to guide that so that we can assure them that it's done in a safe manner and so that it's a positive experience for all of their customers who I know will eagerly support our businesses. And don't forget small shops as well. Will be opening on June 15th. Green Team Development. Good news, great things happen in Hanover. Hanover Township received a grant, sum of $10,000, thanks to New Jersey Sustainability and PSE&G. The reason for this grant is to facilitate composting activity. So Nadia Meehan, a member of the Green Team, did a great job in writing up the recommendation to New Jersey Sustainability. It was voted on, and it was one of the larger awards that were given out at the most recent session. More news to follow on this, but 100 kits will be available. It's a great activity, composting, something to do that you can do in your own backyard. That concludes my report.
Oh, terrific, John. That's great. You know what? As the composting comes along, we'll work closely with, hopefully, our farm and garden team. Get it involved there, too. Farm and garden team, I'll jump right into a couple of comments that I have on the farm is doing absolutely fantastic. I don't want to say there's any benefits that has come out of this terrible crisis, but certainly it has brought people together, more conscious of socializing than ever before. We've all been kept cooped up in our homes all these months. So the farm has become a great vehicle for that. The distancing is there. It's a secure area. And we've got more than a dozen new gardeners that are coming into the farm from what Denise is giving us statistically. So it's a great opportunity. If there are people out there who are listening who have not signed up for the farm or want to have a garden or want to do something out there, you can get a hold of Recreation. You can have your own area of a 4-foot by 16-foot garden area that's yours for the year to plant on, and it's doing absolutely wonderfully well. From a Board of Health standpoint, I know everybody's following what is going on both nationally, etc., but we're most concerned with what goes on locally. And this COVID-19 certainly has crested at this particular point, and I'll say at this time, the statistics that we have here in Hanover, though lagging, I might say, because we get a lot of our statistics from the state and then from the hospitals that comes into our Board of Health, does show that we're over the top at this point, and that with 178 cases, many of which are probably, thankfully, home already. So we're hoping we're on the downside of all of this, and that we all get back to normalcy as quickly as possible. So that's pretty much where I am. We'll continue to keep in touch with our other communities through this all. With Madison, with Mark Taylor, Mayor Taylor, Joe Panulo, Mayor of East Hanover, we have regular phone calls to talk about how we're doing in combating this from a Office of Emergency Management standpoint, discuss economic issues as well. I will tell you, our town, as you fellas all know, and Joe and Silvio certainly know, we are in wonderful shape fiscally through this. Thank God we've done the right things over time. We've not put our town into debt. We're going to continue along on those lines and into 2021. 22. So economic development is keeping a careful eye on that as well. So that's my report, everyone. Unless anyone has anything else to add at this time, I'll go back to you, Joe.
Hey, thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the public, we appreciate the fact that you participated in this evening's telephonic meeting. And the next regularly scheduled meeting will be on Thursday, July 9th. We don't know if we'll be back in the main meeting room or if we'll do a Zoom or another telephone session. That's something that I will discuss with the Township Committee in the coming days. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone. And Mr. Mayor, I want to entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion for adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Township.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.